64 cents. Microsoft says that's how much they lost on every dollar that they put into its game studio. Today, 4,800 people found out what happens when somebody finally reads that number out loud. Hey, Cal here. Appreciate you all joining me. If you're a content creator and you're constantly looking for what should I post next, this is the place for you. Welcome. This morning, my desk lit up with one primary story. And honestly, you may have heard it already. Microsoft cut 4,800 jobs. That's about 2.1% of their whole company. Then that's their number. So you can see the slate here on the left as it loads. And look, big tech layoffs, I mean, it's pretty much the norm at this point. It happens every quarter. It's sad, but in some ways, it's kind of become background noise as we've gotten used to it. But let me tell you why this one is not noise. So, as you can see here on The Verge, this is coming from the day of more than 30% of those losses landed in one spot, and that's in Xbox, my beloved Xbox. So the reason we know exactly why, right? That's the wild part because the Xbox CEO, Asha Sharma, she put it in writing to a memo to her own staff, right? She said it might seriously be one of the frankest things that you're ever going to read from a high level executive at one of these major corporations. I mean, she's coming out and she's saying it. Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. That's the problem. And they're being pretty upfront about it. Read that again. Not healthy. Companies generally don't talk about themselves in that way, at least, in memos that could be released to the public. So, not on the record. So the damage is inside of Xbox. 1,600 roles are gone, 3,200 by the end of the next FY, and 4 game studios are leaving Microsoft entirely. So she called it the most significant restructure in Xbox history. And, frankly, I don't think that's spin. I think she's really confessing like we're in some trouble here. We need to make changes. So I'm gonna add a little bit of context. I don't like to make any assumptions on the show. So, Xbox, a lot of us are familiar with it. It's really not just the console itself, right? It's the whole Microsoft gaming empire. That includes Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, King, plus, a shelf of smaller studios that Microsoft has been buying up over the years, right? Think like Call of Duty, Candy Crush, like a bunch of different things that Microsoft has been adding. So Game Pass, if you've never touched it, it's super cool, right? It allows you to play games on the go. You can do it from a tablet. You can do it from your phone. It's pretty sweet. It's kind of like their Netflix for game subscriptions. So it's one monthly fee, large library. I mean, it was a great idea, right? And that was their big bet. And the memo that the CEO released, I mean, I think it basically is saying like, you know, did not grow at the pace that we expected it. I mean, you can see the quote here on the screen. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what she said. So now we have 4 studios leaving. It doesn't mean that 4 studios were shot in the field, right? They're not gone, but, they're out of Microsoft's, umbrella, right? So Double Fine and Compulsion, they're going independent, and they'll keep their own games. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs, they'll get new owners, who are funding the games they're already making. So in corporate speak, it's that, we call that a divestiture. Let me get my words right this morning. So cut loose, still alive. So you may be wondering, right? Why is this happening right now? There's one word, and you probably already know it: AI. Microsoft is pouring record money into AI data centers. Wall Street wants the other costs to be held flat, right? Which makes sense. So the lowest margin division is generally what's going to pay first. And we're seeing that here live. And so this is where it gets a little interesting, right? Kind of spicy, right? So Microsoft's chief people officer, Amy Coleman, on the official company blog, felt the need to say this, and you can see it here as it's scrolling by on the screen, like straight from Xbox's site. I also want to be direct that the roles eliminated today are not being replaced by AI. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, that contradicts what you just said, Cal. Well, think about it a little bit. Not being replaced by AI, she's probably right, like literally, right? Nobody's plugging a chatbot into, a level designer's chair. But if you hold that thought, because the money itself is what's really starting to tell this story here, right? So for every dollar in, 64 cents are gone in a typical year for Microsoft's gaming business. That's their math, not my math. I didn't make that up, right? That's coming directly from them and in the CEO Sharma's her actual memo. So here's my take, right? So for 2 years, companies have spent the ridiculous amount of time out in the public space blaming layoffs on AI, right? But those layoffs, in large part, were really overcorrections from over or corrections from overhiring in the past, right? So Klarna said its assistant was doing the work of 700 agents. Then they ended up hiring the people back. So look at what Microsoft did today, right? They cut 4,800 jobs and they went out of their way to say AI did not do this. The excuse was free, right? They could have just went with, hey, it's AI. This is why we're cutting them. But they actually went out of the way to say it is not AI. That's the tell, in my opinion. So this is about bottom line. I think it points directly at um, the bottom line of their business and the ways in which they plan to optimize for the future. And so the new Xbox boss already killed Copilot in the console back in May, and you can see here in the quote, right? We will begin winding down Copilot on mobile and will stop development of Copilot on console. And so, like, that's one pivot away a little bit from AI within the Xbox Gaming Studio, but there's been a ton of investment into AI, as I mentioned earlier, in like data centers for Microsoft. So very, very interesting stuff. Her call, her words, right? Console players aren't excited about that experience. So, don't watch what got cut, watch what didn't. I think that's the takeaway for you. And I think Asha Sharma is pretty much spot on here. Like as an Xbox gamer, for me, like I don't need Copilot in my console like at all. I'm just not sure what is it giving me at this point. So I agree with her on this one. So what we need to do is focus on what did not get touched, and I think the story is really here. So Azure grew 40% last quarter. We've got the big Pentagon contract that just came out, right? Like the Pentagon just consolidated its entire Microsoft license book. So $9.7 billion. Like, I mean, there's parts of their business that are doing pretty well. And Copilot, right? 20 million paid seats, that's climbing. Same earnings release. So that's not a company that's shrinking. That's a bit of rotation, right? So gaming out, more cloud. Xbox didn't lose to PlayStation, it lost to Azure, right? That's the way you really need to think about it. So everyone's going to argue today. At least in my opinion, about whether AI took these jobs. Microsoft has said no, we're not an AI problem. And honestly, I personally I'm not even sure that's the right question, right? Like AI didn't take the jobs, AI took the budget, right? So Xbox lost 64 cents on the dollar for years, and nobody pulled the cord because money was cheap, and gaming kind of bought Microsoft a little bit of cool factor. And the second the company needed every spare billion for data centers, the tolerance for a money losing division, zero. So to me, that's the real AI layoff story. I mean, that part didn't necessarily show up in the memo, but like if you read between the lines, you can pretty clearly see what's going on here. You know, and, the take, right, maybe not the most popular one, but, like, the memo is brutal, it holds the most honest thing a platform holder, like, if you think about one of these big tech companies, like, it's a really honest memo, right? And it's one of the probably the more honest ones you'll see. The norm in gaming is, like, you shut down a studio quietly on a Friday, and then the games are just gone off the platform. But Microsoft wrote down, like, in quotes, "Our business is not healthy." So and they put a number on that failure, they pushed 4 studios out to the side, and, I mean, that's a company, in my mind, that is admitting the console war that it was fighting. Yeah, that war is over. That war is done. So, we're gonna watch the next 12 months. We'll see what continues to happen on Microsoft. This is very, very, very interesting. my major takeaway, like I can't get over just them being very, very specific and upfront saying that this is not about AI. And I think in some ways that is an accurate statement. Like it's not literally about AI, but it's about investment in AI. And I think when you think about it from a budgetary standpoint, from a business standpoint, where they're going to apply their resources moving forward into the future, like this makes a ton of sense. So, all right. So my desk flagged this, right? And I've talked about this before in the past, but this is niche. My desk pulled this for me overnight. I woke up this morning, made my coffee, and this is what I got. Right? It's called Niche, nicheangle.com. It's free to start, no card, and yeah, I'll be back soon with some more. Thanks. Peace.